Now, today marks the beginning of arguably the most important week in the life of South African Airways. Government expected to perhaps honour its commitment that it made last week to provide over 10.5 billion rand needed to save the national carrier from liquidation. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan is confident that government will come up with the money this week, but SAA trade unions are not equally optimistic. Let's chat to NUMSA's Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, who's spokesperson for the union. Phakamile, thank you so much for the time this afternoon. Of course, it has been said that you are not in agreement, and I can believe that as well. Not being in agreement with how things have fared so far with SAA and their ordeal at present. What exactly is the latest? Have government said they will definitely put the money through? And when it comes to the packages for workers as well, have those been secured?
Good afternoon, Arabile, and good afternoon to your viewers. Thank you for having us on your show. Well, as I speak to you right now, Arabile, yes, we can confirm that government has given its assurances. They did that on Friday at the creditors meeting, where we were expecting the creditors to actually announce liquidation or wind down. That's when, at the 11th hour, they sent a letter to the BRP saying that they will mobilize for funding. So we accept that, and I don't want to rush to say we're relieved, but I think we will only be convinced once that transaction actually comes through. This is not the first time that government has failed to meet a deadline, and it's not the first time where we've been promised that money was forthcoming and it didn't happen. So we would really like to see that process actually happen before we celebrate.
It's a time, though, as well, where one can certainly attest to it being, yes, difficult for all businesses, not just SAA itself, Phakamile. But would you say that, you've had a fair process here? Has it been, the business rescue practitioners have done their best? Is it just government that we sort of have an issue with at this point in time?
Well, I think from our side as NUMSA and SAA, it's no secret that we have a real problem with the business rescue practitioners and how they've conducted themselves during this BRP process. There's been massive wastage of resources in this period of time. There was the initial funding from the Development Bank, if you recall, and also the fact that, the BRPs have been earning extremely exorbitant fees, but they had achieved very little in this time period. It took forever, for example, for them to devise a business rescue plan when the law only allows for that process to happen within 3 months. So the BRP process has, in our view, really, I think we can almost call it, I don't want to say it was a disaster, but it was close to it in the sense that the impact on our members was really bad. SAA went under business rescue in December. For the last 4 months or more, our members at SAA have had no salaries. They've had to depend on the temporary employee relief scheme at UIF. And unfortunately, that money, it's a fraction of what most our members are earning. And they're really struggling to survive. Their families have suffered extreme hardship as a result of this long delay in this process. And you're right, the coronavirus has had a major impact on aviation companies, not just globally, but in South Africa as well. NUMSA represents many aviation companies besides just SAA, SA Express. There are, Bid Air Services, Air Shares. I can name a range of companies along the aviation value chain where we're represented. And I can tell you, Arabile, it's really, really a crisis. A lot of these companies have served us with Section 189 notices because they've got plans to retrench, or they're in the process of renegotiating terms and conditions because there's no income coming in. And what you need when you're faced with a crisis on this scale, where all companies are affected by a global pandemic, is you need a government to intervene and by putting money into the sector in order to protect various sectors and protect various industries through this extraordinary crisis that we're all facing. This has been the response in many other countries, and we frankly don't understand why the South African government has taken a decision to implement austerity measures.
Let me just ask perhaps a final question here, but then Phakamile, you made note of how, specifically you don't just look after SAA or SA Express staff as well, as you said, Bid Air and the like, and air shifts as well. But also Com-Air workers are certainly NUMSA members, and you're a majority union there. Their business rescue process, perhaps voted on by shareholders on Friday, agreed to in part by them. But a 30% cut in salaries is what they want workers to take on as well. Plus, they're asking you to perhaps, not take in a salary from April until the planes get back off the ground. How difficult a situation is it from here on in then if the business rescue plans of both SAA as well as Com-Air don't get off the ground? What happens to workers?
Well, in the case of the Com-Air Business Rescue Plan, that plan was voted on Friday and adopted. But you're correct also about the conditions that they placed there, which for us as NUMSA, we flat out rejected. We rejected them on the basis that the Com-Air Business Rescue practitioners did not consult, as is demanded by the labor legislation when it comes to changes in terms and conditions of work. And this still applies even if you're under business rescue. You have to consult. You don't just issue out a collective agreement and demand that workers sign, which is what Com-Air actually did. So as NUMSA, we made it very clear that we were not going to accept those changes. And at the moment, we are currently considering our legal options with respect to how we deal with how the BRPs at Com-Air have handled the situation. It has been a very difficult time overall in aviation. We do need a government that demonstrates that it genuinely cares about our economy and the growth of our economy during this difficult time. That can only happen if you take progressive decisions to actually kickstart the economy. The decision that our government has taken to implement austerity measures and cut jobs and cut spending actually is senseless in the wake of the crisis that we're facing and is not what most other governments are doing.
Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it this afternoon. It certainly is a crucial week, and not just these negotiations, but certainly as well in all discussions set to come forward then when it comes to SAA and Com-Air as well. The entire aviation sector certainly hinges on this as well. We'll take a short ad break then. We'll be back with a little bit more with regards to this story for you right after this.